Everybody knows that the dice are loaded. Everybody rolls with their fingers crossed. Everybody knows the war is over. Everybody knows the...
What's up, Kryptonians? It's been about a week since Justice League came out. I've had time to process it, I've had time to think about it, and now it's time to get into some spoiler shit. There's a spoiler warning for this video. Obviously, the title of the video says spoiler talk in it, so I'm hoping that you have basic reading comprehension skills, and you can tell that this is a spoiler video. But full disclosure, spoilers abound in this video. I'm gonna go in depth about what I liked, what I didn't like about Justice League. Again, if you haven't seen Justice League, I have a spoiler-free review on my channel. You're welcome to check that one out too. So I feel like I'm gonna start off with some of the nitpicks and gripes that I have, because I was very positive about this movie in my spoiler-free review, and there were some things, some nitpicks that I couldn't talk about, and I feel like I want to start off talking about those here. For one thing, there are a couple of continuity errors that I noticed when I rewatched this movie, and I've seen this movie about 4 or 5 times now, and they stood out to me more and more each time. One of the continuity errors has to do with Cyborg. In Batman v Superman, we see Cyborg, and we see like a video clip from Lex Luthor's flash drive that shows him being created by the Mother Box by Silas Stone. And the events of that video clearly took place before Superman died at the end of Batman v Superman. So why then in this movie does Cyborg tell the rest of the League, well, the Mother Box lit up like a Christmas tree when Superman died, and then my father used the Mother Box to bring me back to life? There's a time discrepancy there. It doesn't really make sense. Did the Mother Box bring him back before Superman died or after? That's kind of a little continuity thing. It's not a big thing, but it is a thing. Another thing is, in the Batman v Superman footage, we see Cyborg and he's like barely got a body. It's obviously mostly CGI, but you see like a leg or whatever, and you see Cyborg's head, and you see the rest of it is just kind of a mishmash of nothing. But yet in this movie, you see that Cyborg clearly still has a body, and again, those two shots don't really reconcile with each other. Another continuity error that I noticed was Superman and his freeze breath. Like, okay, Superman using his freeze breath. I have been begging to see this happen in a big-time action movie for a really long-ass time. It happens when he uses the freeze breath in the finale against Steppenwolf, and then Diana cuts off Steppenwolf's axe, and Steppenwolf's like, oh shit, I'm fucked without the axe. I mean, that is some glorious, epic, all-time amazing shit. I first saw that in the theaters. I got out of my seat, I stood up, I clapped, I cheered, I squeed, I did whatever the hell a grown-ass man wearing a cape in the theater would do if he saw his favorite superhero do something badass on screen. Having said that, it's a little bit of a continuity error, because in the previous films, we have never once seen Superman do the freeze breath. We've never seen him exhibit super breath of any kind, really. So then in this movie, for him to just pop out the move like it's nothing, it just kind of feels weird, because it's like, okay, you should have more of a shocked expression, I feel like, because you've never done this before. And if the counter argument to that is, well, he's always been able to do this, he just has never done it before, that begs the question of why the filmmakers in the previous films did not have him do it. Either way, it creates a weird continuity issue for me. On rewatch, once you rewatch the movie over and over again, some of the dialogue and some of the quips and some of the humor do start to get a little bit on my nerves. Don't get me wrong, there are some legitimately funny moments in this movie, like the scene on the ship at the end when they're flying off to meet Steppenwolf and stop him from destroying the world, and Diana has her lasso and Aquaman is sitting on the lasso, and he's basically telling the entire group some shit that he probably would prefer to keep quiet. I'm not gonna lie, that shit was funny, and that shit is still funny every time I see it. But then you start to get into the dialogue and the quips, and some of the quips felt very poorly timed, and some of them just didn't really fit with the characters at all, I felt like. There's a scene close to the end where Superman is still trying to recollect his memories, he's still trying to remember who Clark is, and Lois is there, and she's trying to help him through it on the farm, and she's like, well, what was it like? What was it like coming back to life? Superman's response to all of this is, it was itchy. What the hell is that? Itchy? Itchy? What the hell is itchy? I don't know what itchy, no, I don't like that. He does that a lot with Batman. I understand that Batman is a more optimistic and more heroic figure in this movie, but there are some times where I felt like the dialogue he was using belonged to a Batman from another movie. Yep, I'm thinking about bat nipples. Definitely thinking about bat nipples right now. There's one part in the sewers where Barry basically pulls Batman aside and is like, yeah, I'm afraid of bugs and obnoxiously tall people and guns and a whole bunch of other shit. Later on in the fight, when Batman has the Nightcrawler and he and the team are fighting with Steppenwolf in the sewer, he says, oh shit, he is tall. And I'm just kind of like, no. There's also the park scene where Superman fights the rest of the League, and again, it is glorious to behold. It is epic as hell. It's probably my favorite sequence in the entire film. I love the part where the Flash's theme starts to play, and he's like running in slow motion. This is going to be like one of the most talked about scenes, I think, till the end of time, probably. BVS, we had another moment like this. It was called the Martha scene. Yes, a year and a half later, people still can't shut the hell up about it. But I feel like people are going to be talking about this scene for a very long time, too. The scene where Flash is running in slow motion. He's trying to get an angle on Superman. Superman's fighting the rest of the League. And then Superman is dealing with the League. And then he, like, slowly turns and he can see Flash. He's like, yeah, I see you, bitch. Yeah, I see you. What's up? The look on Flash's face is just... it's priceless. And after that is when the dialogue again starts to get on my nerves. Superman is kicking Batman's ass and then he picks him up and he's like, yeah, you won't let me live, you won't let me die. Tell me, do you bleed? Okay, and then obviously Lois comes in and she calms Superman down and then he flies away with Lois. Batman is like struggling on the ground and then he quickly says, yeah, something's definitely bleeding. Something is definitely bleeding here. It's like, no, Batman wouldn't say no shit like that. How many times has Batman been hurt and, like, refused to acknowledge the fact that he's hurt? The dude is incredibly resistant to pain. The guy is incredibly tough. I just don't think that he would play off the pain for a joke at that moment. It just doesn't feel like something Batman would do. You guys remember there's a shot from the trailers where Batman saves Diana from a parademon that's about to get on top of her or whatever, and he shoots the thing, and then he goes, my turn. And then I was just like, yeah, that's a badass line. That's pretty cool. Then in this movie, they changed the dialogue around and it turns into, sorry guys, I didn't bring a sword. And I'm just kind of like, it feels more like a quip than an actual Batman phrase. This is where some of the Whedon stuff started to interfere with the Snyder stuff, and it kind of got on my nerves. Having said that, as I said in my spoiler-free review, the action in this movie is glorious. It's all-time great. There are so many great action scenes. You could go with Diana's first scene, how fast she was moving, the way she was blocking those bullets, the way she probably killed that guy at the end, let's be honest. I mean, nobody survives a force like that. She knocked Doomsday back like 50 feet with that thing. Imagine what she did to that poor bastard. Probably my favorite sequence is the Superman versus the Justice League part. He takes on the entire league and he basically overpowers them. He kicks all their asses. And I've already seen Stan Twitter is very upset about this scene. You got Wonder Woman fans who are like, oh no, this is wrong, okay? Why did they make Wonder Woman look so weak? She should have kicked Superman's ass. This is wrong. I'm just kind of like, okay. Like, it somehow makes Wonder Woman a less badass character just because she lost a fight to Superman where she probably was holding back the entire time. As Stan Twitter, I usually laugh at you, but now I'm just gonna call you bullshit on you and tell you to shut the hell up. The end finale, where all the big-ass action is happening, is really epic too. Wonder Woman and Aquaman are throwing down the Steppenwolf, and to be honest, Steppenwolf pretty much has the situation under control until Superman comes up with probably the most corniest but well-delivered line that you could possibly hear in a movie. Steppenwolf says something like, you guys can't see the truth, and then Superman's like, yeah, well, I like truth, but I'm also a big fan of justice. And then he like punches the shit out of Steppenwolf. It's cheesy, it's corny, it's awful, but it's something about it works. I don't know why, but something about it works. Probably because we've waited so long to see Superman. But again, this brings back another one of my nitpicks where I feel like the end of the film tried really hard to focus on this Russian family that I didn't give a shit about. It didn't really give us a well-balanced look at the other civilians. It didn't really give us a look at how the other people were trying to survive or if other people died. It didn't really make me feel the scope of the threat because they spent most of their time focusing on this family that I just didn't really give a shit about. If there's one thing I can say about Justice League, as awesome as it was, is that there's just a host of missed opportunities with this thing. Superman's return to the world, his resurrection, it should have meant a little bit more than it actually meant in the movie. We're told in BVS and we're told throughout most of this movie that Superman, his death was a big deal. His death impacted a lot of people. There's a great montage in the beginning with that Everybody Knows song where we get to see how Superman's death has impacted the world and how the world just seems to be a little bit more of a hateful place. If you're gonna tell me throughout the entire film that Superman's death is a big deal and that it's very important to everybody, then I feel like his resurrection and his return should be just as important. Kind of glossed over in this movie. We don't really get the emotional impact of Superman's return. We get the badass impact, and Superman has some of the most badass scenes that you've ever seen from any Superman on any screen, anywhere. His return should have had a little bit more of an emotional investment, though. We should have seen Superman interacting with some of the people. How come we never get to see Superman interacting with the people? We never get to see other people reacting to Superman being alive. There's not like a holy shit moment where everybody looks and they turn on their TVs or whatever and they're like, oh shit, Superman's alive, Superman's back. After 2 movies of kind of getting his name dragged through the mud, it would have been nice to see some of the people embrace him and to see his return actually celebrated. And instead, it feels like it's only celebrated by the League and by Lois and Martha, and we don't really get to see much of a reaction from the rest of the world. I feel like that's a missed missed opportunity. I did like some of the themes of isolation in this movie, though. I like the fact that each member of the League started off alone, like they're alone or they're outcast or something. Flash is alone because he's still getting used to these powers and because he doesn't like people. He says in the movie that there's a rhythm that regular people have that he hasn't quite gotten down yet. Batman's alone because, you know, Batman's alone and he's Batman. He's always alone. Diana's alone because, again, she walked away from humanity. Great scene, by the way, later on in the movie when the League is talking and then Batman and Diana get into an argument and then Bruce is like, yeah, well, you shut yourself down for 100 years. I love the line where Flash is like, you know that if she kills you, we're going to cover her, right? You do, as long as you know that. Okay, we're good. Aquaman's alone because he was rejected by Atlantis and by the human world. I mean, pretty much all the characters, Cyborg too, everybody's alone in this movie. And it kind of mirrors the isolation that Clark felt when he was on his journey in Man of Steel, where he traveled the world as a loner, trying to help people out here or there. So the biggest theme, obviously, of the movie is coming together. And I like the fact that each character's individual story of isolation kind of mirrored the story of isolation for Superman too. We got a lot of really awesome teases to end this movie too. We got a Hall of Justice. They're gonna turn Wayne Manor into the Hall of Justice, which I'm on board with that. That second post-credit scene, by the way, is just, yeah, it was the tits. It was the tits. It definitely was. Deathstroke looks like eggs on a tit. He looks amazing, and obviously Lex Luthor was there. That he broke him out of prison, and then Luthor's like, hey, should we form a league of our own? You guys need to show me in the comment section what your ideas are about the Legion of Doom or the Injustice League. Who do you want on the league? That's going to be my question, so answer that in the comment section below. The Injustice League was a pretty awesome-ass time at the movie. I do love the movie. I just didn't love it as much as I wanted to, and some of my nitpicks and gripes kind of knocked the movie down a little bit. It's a conflicted feeling to say that I really liked the movie, but also to acknowledge that I think it could have been a lot better. Fingers crossed for that extended cut when we get one. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace!